Welcome to my daily review. Today is Wednesday, July 9th, and you're looking at a daily chart of the Nasdaq, which saw a gain of 192 points or 0.94%, almost 1% on the session. And it closed at 20,611, the volume, which we don't really care about, but it was 8% above the 50-day average. The Nasdaq, as I'd mentioned yesterday, is like it pulled in Monday and had an inside day on Tuesday, and things look, pretty constructive. But it just wants higher. In an uptrending market, it's going to go higher, right? And just like in a downtrending market, most of your stocks, the index is going to go lower. So you really can't predict, which day it's going to go higher. But it's just in a strong uptrend. I get concerned about the 50-day and don't want to too extend it from the 50-day. It's now 7.4%. And during this rally, if you look at that 50, 8.5, 7.9, 7.4, 8.7, it's pretty comfortable. Being, 9.3, 9.5, it's pretty comfortable being that far above the 50. We had the golden cross, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. People made a big deal about it, but we're just in a strong uptrend. I said that I went through the exercise. I believe it was on the weekend video. I'm not sure about the prior rallies. I might even still have it on here. No, I've got the corrections here, but we each rally here as I'm not going to get this off here. It's distracting. You can expect it to be anywhere between 12 and 20 weeks. I believe the last four rallies have been that length. And right now we're in week 12. I go to the weekly chart here. So, you look at these long legs of some of these rallies here, going back to 2023 when we started this most recent bull market or uptrend or whatever you want to call it. I believe that one was 18, and then we had a 20 and then a 12 and then like a I don't know, 16 or 18, 15, something like that. So it's around the last four have average about 18 weeks. And this right now we're in our 12th week here. So that's why I say I think we still have more room to run on the upside. And there's a lot of stocks that are set up in bases. I'm really having a hard time picking out the right ones for us. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of them set up and ready to move, and they're moving. It's just I'm not picking the right ones. Yesterday, I said that I put a note on my screen to stop trading, and some people took it like, "Oh, you're going to stop trading forever." No, it's just for the day. I just go out, walk my dog, go hit some golf balls, or go do something. When I have two bad trades work against me, I'm not going to sit here and continue to try to beat my head against the wall. But today was a different day, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I want to go through some of the other indexes. I'm going to go to the SPY. Everybody calls it the SPY. I like going to the original S&P 500 index. It blew through that 6,000, had trouble with it for a while there. And then once it blew through there, it is not looking back. It went through 6,100, 6,200. Today it was up 37 points or 0.61%, close at 263, 6,263. You can see this is in a nice uptrend as well, where the shorter term moving averages cross through the 200 and then the 50 cross through the 200, the golden cross, the the magic golden cross. I guess it was on this day, July. So this month. So we're in a new quarter, we're in a new month, and we have seen some rotation into some different groups. I'm going to get to that in a minute. I showed you the oil group yesterday, and the oil patch was strong. And then money rotated elsewhere today, and that's just part of a healthy, sustainable, uptrending market. I want to go to the Dow Jones. I usually don't show the Dow much. I'm not interested in the Dow, but it did have a nice day today, up a 0.5%, and then the Russell as well. I'm not one of these guys who's into hyperbole. The Russell was up 1%, so it outperformed, which is a risk index. So that's good for the overall market. We like risk. And I wanted to just point out because, everybody's making a big deal about it. Yeah, the Nasdaq, made a new high. I think the close was 611, and here it was 601. So at an all-time closing high, that's great for cocktail hour if you want to impress your friends. I don't really care. I mean, I'm just into stocks, and so I'm going to get to stocks. I trade stocks, not the indexes. But it's okay, to buy the index, or if you want to buy the QQQ, that's fine, or the SPY, nothing wrong with that. But I just like trading stocks, and this is Meta Platforms. There's only three of the lag seven stocks that I really like, and that's Meta Platforms, Microsoft, and NVIDIA. And you can see this was Meta set up in this cup with handle base and broke out, and now it's just surfing its 10 EMA. And like Kelly Slater, man, this thing looks fantastic. Had a high here of 747, call it 748. So once it gets above that, probably going to rip higher. Right there is that old high from 740, and it made another high above 740. Earnings are coming up, Meta's going higher. If the market's going higher, Meta's going higher. Microsoft, or you could say the market's going higher because Meta's going higher and Microsoft's going higher, up 1.39% today. And you can see this one's just surfing the 10 beautifully, like Stephanie Gilmore here, a nice surfer stock. And once it gets a little bit of ahead of itself, you can trim some, wait for it to pull back because that's the pattern. That's what it's been doing. This is a slower mover. They're going to report on the 29th. These are all coming up right in our face here. This is going to be fantastic. I think the estimates are too low too for these stocks. I think they're going to crush them and go higher. And we're probably going to get some lower interest rates sometime soon. So plenty of catalysts out there for us. All right. What else do I have? Oh yeah, maybe a stock you've heard of, NVIDIA. Everybody on Twitter. Yeah, it's a 4 trillion market cap. Okay. Whatever floats your boat. It was up 1.8% today. That doesn't excite me. If you own this stock, congrats. I mean, it's at new highs and it broke out of this consolidation pattern. I just, I think you could do better elsewhere. But if you're a swing trader, that's a hell of a nice swing trade, right? And this one's surfing its 10 as well. So, there's nothing wrong with NVIDIA. In fact, it's the darling of this current bull market that everybody has to own, right? I mentioned before, and I should probably do this again now that I'm thinking about it, is that Microsoft, has got all this, what, 10,000, 10.2, 10.4, 10.8, 10.7, all these funds that own Microsoft. And now the last couple of quarters, it's come down a little bit. And they'll probably go up this quarter. But then when you go to NVIDIA, it only has eight, Microsoft has more than 2,000 more funds owning it. So to me, I'm not going to say Microsoft's over-owned, but it is awfully loved. But I would just say that NVIDIA has more room for these growth investors to buy. How about that? That's safe enough, right? I'm not upsetting the Microsoft people or the NVIDIA people. So yeah, it's got more room for funds to own this thing. So I wouldn't say it's overloved just yet. All right, I'm going to move on. Since I'm talking about the semiconductors here, when NVIDIA goes up like this, obviously there was news with China, and that prompted some of these moves today. And these names is Broadcom, surfing the 10. Broadcom's very strong stock. Taiwan Semiconductor, another big, 1.2 trillion market cap. Maybe I went through Broadcom too quickly here. Broadcom 1.3 trillion. So this is a big kahuna. It used to be a trillion was a big deal. Now I guess inflation adjusted, this is probably like a quarter million, 250 million, something like that. But anyway, this one's surfing its moving average, very strong. I know a lot of people own this. Just a super strong stock. Then I did mention Taiwan Semi, another one that's going gangbusters, surfing its 10. And then, of course, you got to mention AMD, which is just kind of wallowing along here. It made that nice run up to 147, then pulled back. A lot of stocks we've seen have pulled back, right, recently, and that's a good thing ahead of earnings. So, what other one did I want to show you? Oh, yeah, AEIS is a equipment type semiconductor name that's just surfing, looking beautiful. Somebody asked me to cover this one. It's doing really well. Yeah, up 2.2% today. Very nice move. And then ALAB, and this is what I'm talking about with NVIDIA made a nice move. I was going to put this one on the ready list last night. I just didn't. There was two of them, MicroStrategy and ALAB, and I just paused on both of them. I talked about it in the video how they're trading tight within the base after making a big move, and I like that, but I didn't put it on. It was up for nearly 5%. I digress here. It's okay. Sorry about that. And then ALAB. So now, if you're thinking that maybe it's extended, it's a 8% move here. I missed the move. It's 7.9% above the 10. I'm not really thrilled about that. Let me move this back to the 5 because I do know that the really strong, fast-growing stocks, they surf their fives. 6.5% above the 5. It's trading tight within the base near the moving averages, right? And it's been a long time. And I'm saying that I'm watching ALAB. If you didn't get it today, if you don't own it, I am going to put this on the ready list here because above 100, it's fair game, but above 101.82, let's just call it 102, and it can get there in a jiffy. And this could just be the beginning of the move today. So, it could be 6.5% above, whatever, 6% above its 5 today, but it could get 20%, in a couple of days. So just be open-minded and flexible. When these things start to move, they really move. And this is Astera Labs had this big move last year, and I'm going to get to that because I'm telling you, a lot of people just stress out over each trade. All you need each quarter, and we're in a new quarter here, the third quarter, all you need is one or two really strong moves like this, and that'll make your year. You don't have to swing at every pitch. I know there's a lot of people on Twitter posting their P&L and every stock's a winner, but you have losing trades. Everybody's going to have losing trades. Heck, if I hit 50% or 500, I'm happy because I keep my losses at 5%. And I know I'm going to have some stuff like this in the back half of 2025. So I'm going to get to that at the end of this video. In fact, how about that? All right, that's enough of the semiconductors because I really wanted to talk about today were two things. One, the drugs. VRNA, I got bought out this morning by Merck. And you got to pay attention to this here because the Merck, Johnson and Johnson, Bristol Myers, Pfizer, a lot of these companies have their key revenue drugs coming off patent in the next 3 years. There's a serious patent cliff, and all these top selling drugs are going to go generic, so they're going to lose their revenue. So they have to buy some growth somewhere. And Merck bought Verona here today. 20% move. A lot of people thought it was just too cheap, a $10 billion deal. In Verona, they think it's going to have big sales. And it's just starting, to get sales here. You can see 5 million, 36 million, 76. It's just starting to hit its stride. And Merck caught them before they really started making big moves. And I guess there could be another bidder, but I think the Verona people were hoping they would go it alone and not get bought out. But I mean, you have to 20% move and you have to take that and just move on. But maybe there'll be another bidder. I don't know. But the bigger point is the bigger picture here is the small fish are being bought up by these big fishes. And when you see Merck, which is the buyer, up 3% on a buyout, that's telling you that Wall Street thinks they got a pretty good deal at 10 billion for that company. I think they did too. And I'm just going to go through a bunch of drug stocks today because I mentioned yesterday the rotation was into the oil and gas, and I showed you those oil and gas stocks. But today it was definitely into the drug stocks and the home builders, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. This is Rhythm. They had a positive phase two trial, and phase two trials are better than buyouts, right? This thing's up 36% on that news with massive volume. And those two items of news really drove the money flow to the drug stocks today. And we saw that in a ton of names. I'm just going to go through these quickly. I don't know what all these names do. I can just tell you they're up with volume. This is KOGT. This is 3 days in a row where it's been up with volume there on a nice breakout. Let's take a look at that one on the weekly. Yeah, look at how badly these things are beaten down. I mean, this is ridiculous what's happened with the drug stock. And so, okay, so what happened was the president yesterday said, 200% tariffs on all pharma, blah, blah, blah. And then he came out later and said, well, it's not until for a year and a half to give their, companies to adjust. So that kind of threw, instead of being cautious towards drugs, the money flowed towards the drug stocks today. And I mentioned that yesterday with the copper. I mean, it's just really crazy times here. Um, LGND, Ligand Pharmaceuticals, up 6%. Still consolidating within a base, but that's a nice move with volume here. And you can see on this. Yeah, that's still consolidating within a base. I know a lot of people don't like drug stocks because they don't have the sales and earnings, but this one has sales. This one has earnings. But I get it. They're very risky, very risky. But all stocks come with risk, all of them. I don't care if it's NVIDIA, Microsoft, Apple, they all have risk. Don't think you could buy something and just park it and forget it. All right, one that I like and I own is TGTX, TG Therapeutics. Nice 6% move today. And I just wanted to point out on this one, I've owned it, and I'm biased. I know that. But you see these higher lows, 16, 21, 27, 28, 31, 32, 34. Yesterday came down to like 34.63. I knew that was a buy at the time because the low held. It didn't crash through the 34.03. The low yesterday was 34.36. I didn't know today it was going to pop 7%. It could have just stayed flat there above 34.03 for, a couple of weeks. I didn't know. But I do know that they have tremendous growth in sales. And I saw a graph today where Wolf Research came out and expects TG to have 2.9 billion peak sales. They didn't say when, but they have a patent until 2042. And these higher lows, if you look at this on the weekly, if you're not looking at the highs, you're just looking at the lows, like just buy every time it comes down to one of those low points, right? Just steady Eddie lows. And of course, it does have higher highs. The last high was before last earnings, like at 46. And then it, fell into a base here after the last earnings report. So people think, oh, it's going to happen again. I don't think so. I'm starting to figure out the cadence of this company. That the first quarter is their weaker quarter, and I think the subsequent quarters are going to be a lot stronger, and they're going to surprise Wall Street. Like they only earned like 3 cents last quarter, and that was a really big disappointment because the prior quarter was 15 cents. But they spent money on making advertisements and stuff. And anyway, I don't want to get into it and do too much detail. It's just I think they're gonna have a better quarter. Let's just leave it at that. All right, AKRO. And this one I don't know much about. Some I know more about than others, obviously. I look here, if they have any sales or anything. If they don't, then it's highly speculative. 4 billion market cap with no sales. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation there, but technically, this is looking very good. Cup with handle pattern. We got a shakeout within the handle near the 50. That one looks very good. Let's take a look at this on the weekly. AKRO, yeah, gapped up, probably on trial news. And then a cup with hand. That is textbook stuff right there, folks. I don't know how long this move into the drug stocks is going to last. Something tells me not very long. These things they're hated. AXSM, this one's actually doing better than most. And this one has made a bottom here. They're at 86, again at 99, and now it's at 1012. This is Axom, and these guys do have real sales, and they're still losing money here. Yeah, $4, but they do have sales. All right, let's move on. I've got a lot of stuff to get to today, and I just want to go through these drug stocks. Where's the money flowing today? Well, all these stocks up with volume. This is CYTK. DNTH, nice move there with volume, 16% move. OCUL, I do know a little bit about this one. I like this one. And a nice move today, 8%. Not there yet, quite with the fundamentals, but yeah, technically it looks pretty good. You can see it's rounding into this base. Still only a $10 stock. Sales are coming though, and yeah, I kind of like that one. Not as much as TG, but let me see AGIO. And I'm just going to go through these here. Nice move with volume here, 8% move. There's a 7% move, KALV. Beam, this is a Kathy Wood company, and the other one is a CRSP, right? CRISPR. Yeah, she likes that one. This one broke out of a base. I think I talked about this one yesterday, the day before, and it needed to get above that 55.88, call it 56. Did it ever, man. What a nice move. 10% move today, above 60. And if we look at this one, on the weekly, you can see this like a stage one base here, and it's starting to head into its stage two advanced phase, and this thing looks fantastic. And yeah, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. If you're a swing trader and you don't need a lot of stocks, you don't need to have a bunch of big winners, but if you bought this one here at 33, that's probably the was this 33? I call it 30 here. That's Liberation Day 30, 60. So you got a two bagger, right? So, a two bagger is going to help your portfolio quite a bit. And there's a lot of them out there. And I've been through them and they've been on our relative strength list, but I'm going to move on here. The last one in my drug stocks. Sorry for taking so much time on drugs. It's just they've been beaten down and they finally got some love today. And I just had to point that out. That's where the strength was. All right. And then, okay, I did mention I'm going to the home builders. Home builders, I always talk about, stocks when they top. The fundamentals look great. Everything looks great. Everybody's bullish. They got a lot of headlines, greatest stock in the world. And that's when they crash and burn. That's when they top. That's when they peak, when the fundamentals look their best and everybody loves them. And the, flip side is true on home builders. Everybody hates home builders. They're terrible. They've just been in the tank for a long, long time. But they've been delivering pretty poor earnings reports and they're not going any lower. And this one's clearly forming a bottom here. You got this, 100, a retest, a 102, 103, 103, and now it's at 118. So this telling you that maybe it wants to pop out of this, stage one consolidation pattern. That's my story. I'm sticking to it above 124. That's go time, heck above 118.27. I think that looks good. MHO, MI Homes. I have a lot of these home builders. I'm not going to get to all of them, but I just want to point out some of the bigger ones. This is Pulte. Now you say, gosh, it's below its 200. It's going to get rejected there. It's up 4.5% today. And it just depends on your style. I know a lot of folks do not want to buy stocks that are lower. They're down for a reason. They're below the 200. But I think, Pulte is, this is a big company. And 111.05 is definitely an area of interest here. Breaking out of this, what I would call a stage one base. And if you don't like it here, you can wait. And if it gets above that 121 level, then it's above the 200. And you see their short-term moving averages here are trading through the 50, right? The longer term moving averages, and eventually they're going to trade through the 200 if the momentum continues, like it has been. And I'm just pointing this out here. I'm not saying go out and buy a DR Horton. I have these all color coded so I can spot them on my desktop. I have like 50 charts on there. All right, DHI once again below the 200. But this is definitely a rounding a bottom here, and I'm not saying I love these, but I'm paying attention to them. I'm not saying I'm going to go out and buy them, but I don't blame you if you do. It's probably more for the more patient person, but a lot of people, some folks, that's their style. Buy low and sell high. This one definitely made a bottom at 98, and it retested here at 102. The 102 held the second time around, and now it's at 115. So what is that telling you? I'd say 116.49, call it 117, go time 129. I know it's below the 200, but the stock doesn't know the lines there. Um, I don't know. It's like I said, this depends on your personality, your style, what you can handle. Yeah, I mean, Toll Brothers makes the high-end homes. And this one, same profile here. These things look like they have bottom. GRBK is a smaller one, a more of a niche type play. This one's above its 200 for those of you who are, just sticklers for not buying below the 200. And I get it. You stick to your rules. I respect that totally. That's how you, stay out of trouble. And this one is through the 200 though. So of the home builders, this one's above the 200. Then you have the supplier, builders first source. Gosh darn it. Um, this one's below the 200, but this one's clearly bottomed. 103, a retest here at 102. The 102 held, and now it's at 133. So, like I say, it's just a question of your style, and I would just say that 132.56, just call it 133. That's your area of interest. It closed right there at 133 today. So, any move higher there, I like it. I like Builder for Source. 14 billion market cap with about, I don't know what, 16 billion in sales. So one-time sales is not an expensive stock. It's just a question of style. That's all I can say. Since I'm in this kind of construction group, I got to go to a Caterpillar, another colored stock. Sorry about that. And this one's just consolidating in a base. This is more of a global play, global construction. And yeah, I've been playing around with Caterpillar. I like Caterpillar. It's had this huge move off the the Liberation Day, right? If I can get this here, what was it, 267? Yeah, now it's a 402. So had a big move, still consolidating within a base though, close to a moving average. I like that. So that one could appear on the ready list as well. So like I said, there's a lot of stocks set up. I can't put all of them on, a ready list. Otherwise, you'd have 50 stocks to choose from. Some work, some don't. That's just trading. You have some wins, some losses. That's just trading. Keep your losses small. Let your winners run, and that's your formula for success. All right, that's enough of the home builders. I'm going to get off this construction bit. All right, Bloom Energy was upgraded today at, gosh, don't do this to me. Goldman Sachs, maybe? I don't know. One of the big firms. And I noticed this in the morning. I put it on my report, and I've kind of figured this thing would move. Not like this. That's a hell of a move. Yeah, 18% move, but it's still consolidating within a base here, even though it's made a big run from 15 to 28. It's been nearly a two-bagger since we got liberated. But this group here, the Alternative Energy Group, is a top group, and now this stock wants to move with, what I would consider the big kahuna from this group, GEV, which is a 146 billion market cap, surfing the five. I know some people got a little upset with it the other day. And when was it yesterday? Yeah, when it just pulled hard in the morning and then rallied back up to finish at 5:30. Yeah, that was yesterday. I talked about that in yesterday's video. That's why it's good to just go take a walk. Walk your dog, take a hike, go swimming, play in the garden. I don't know what you do with your spare time. Or if you're working, gosh, go to work and don't look at this stuff. GEV is going higher, and it does have these days where it has a tendency to have these little blips here, right? Not to mention January 27th, where it was down 22%. That stuff gives people heart attacks. All right, that's enough with that. VST, another one of these energy names. This is not an alternative energy. I should go back to that group. This is an electric power, up 4% today. Looks pretty good. VRT is kind of in the same, data center power play. I do have that one on the ready list. I do like that one, but I want to go back to the alternative energy group, which is where I was originally. Sorry about that. And you could see this is, nice run, 49 to 211. That's what I'm talking about. All you need is one of those, in the second half of 2025 to make your quarter. And like I said, you might go week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month without a winner. And then you run into something like this where you get, a four bagger, in a couple of months, and that makes your year. So just be patient, wait for your pitch. Don't worry about all these people, saying that they made, millions in a day. I mean, that you got to live your own life. You got to have your own strategies. You got to have your own ball game. And yeah, that's very important. I can't stress that enough because it's you, your life, it's your money, it's your responsibility, it's your personality, it's what you can tolerate. And hopefully, I just give you a bunch of ideas that, can get you in something like this where we can make, three or four bagger. And if you get into something like I recommended the other day, like Galaxy, and it crashes and burns on you like it did me, you take a 5% loss and move on. That's trading. That happens. The other one was a HNGE. These IPOs are killing me. They're killing me, Smalls. This one just really just pulled back to a moving average, but another one that I took a small loss because I don't want to take a big loss. And these IPOs don't have a lot of trading history, and with a lot of IPOs coming out, the IPO money is sloshing around pretty quickly there. So yeah, I'm just totally way off on a tangent here. So I better get back. I'm going to go to the cybersecurity names. When in doubt, go to cybersecurity. They'll keep you safe. And this is ARQQ. Yeah, since I talked about before, cup with handle pattern, pop 14% today. Small, 500 million market cap. This is tiny. I'm going to talk about another one like this. So you think, oh my gosh, it had this big move, it's extended. I don't think so. I think it just had this consolidation pattern where it formed this cup with handle, and today it moved. Yeah, it's up 16% this week, and it's extended from its moving average a little bit. But to me, 44.70 is still an area of interest. And this could appear on our ready list pretty darn quick. Zscaler is one that I like. Obviously, just surfing like Stephanie Gilmore here, doing nothing wrong. Just an easy hold. I mean, this is quietly just grinding higher. CrowdStrike kind of doing the same thing, just grinding on the five there. Just kind of quietly moving higher. Rubric is the one I like in this group. The one that I own. I shouldn't say the one that it's the one that I own. Once again, if you swing and miss it a couple and you have some bad trades like I did, and I say stop trading for the day, and I go take a walk or go hit some golf balls, you got to remind yourself that, you get one of these, from 47 to 103, and you just get one of those or two of those in the second half of 2025, and you could absorb quite a few of those 5% losses, right? So just keep the faith, hang tight. We're in a strong uptrend. We're gonna nail these big winners here. They might not be the same stocks. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're not all going to be the same stocks. So that's why we're on the lookout for the rotation and where the money's flowing and stocks set up, ready to move. All right. And the last one in this group is GRR. I did have this one on the ready list. I went heavy into this one today, with stock and calls, and it paid off for me today. It was up 14%. I sold half my calls, but I'm not done with this one. I just think this one's starting to move here. Once again, this is a tiny, 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 tiny company, 500 million market cap, but it was pinching in there. And I said, this is like the acne face high school kid. We can't help it. We used to make fun of him, call him like you're a goalie for a dart team. We were mean that way. And then you get acne and they make fun of you, and that's just part of growing up. If you're a goalie for a dart team and you're in high school, hey, it's okay. It happens. It's just your body's changing. But this is a pinch and pop pattern, is what I was getting at. Pinching and then popping like a zit there, 14%. Nice move. I don't think it's done. I think it's going to take out the 28 level there, 2790. They have a conference tomorrow morning. Today they announced that they're partners with NVIDIA. I don't know what that means. I'm sure they're going to explain it tomorrow. But it's a 500 million market cap company. Not many shares in the float, so it doesn't take much to move this thing, and it's got heavy short interest. This is a ticking time bomb here. This is a powder keg. This thing could really move, and that's why I went heavy in it. And yeah, all right. You guys don't care. You just want some ideas, right? Ideas for you can make money. Credo, a couple of folks in the group subscribers mentioned that they bought Credo. I had this on my ready list a while back, and it's really been a pretty easy hold. It did have this one day where it got a little wonky, but as long as it's above the 21, yeah, they'll find it was down 5% one day. Those are the days you want to just, turn your screen off and, like I say, go swimming, go fly a kite. All right, what else do we have here? Oh, CLS. Another one I had on the ready list last week, pulled back just, you got one day, like Monday, right? It pulled back to 153, and that's all it's giving you now. It's 160 today. And it's just a super strong stock. And whenever it gives you that little bit of a pullback, it's being bought, So, talk about a buy the dip stock. This is a buy the dip stock. Just surfing once again, 58 to 160. I mean, yeah, that'll help your year. And when I say that some of the stocks that were successful in the first half of 2025 might not be, this one might be. Palantir was your top performer in the first half of 2025. That one might be as well, but you got to look around at other stocks and don't fall in love with a stock, because that's a good way to get hurt. All right, and then my buddy, the Solar Brothers, I'm going to go up and meet them when I go to Silicon Valley here in a week or so and have dinner with them. Can't wait to see them. My Croatian brothers, 103.67 was the high today. And it's just surfing its five, man. Saying, Mina, this is kind of uncharacteristic for this stock. Yuri, the founder, he founded it in early 80s and he retired in, I don't know, 2019, I think. And then the guy running the company, the CEO, didn't do a good job. Then Yuri had to come back. He hurt his back golfing. And he came back to the company, I want to say about 2021, maybe. He's been there about 4 or 5 years. And this guy knows what he's doing. He's got this thing cooking on all cylinders. And so it's a different company now with leadership. Leadership matters, and I talk about Lisa Su at AMD and Jensen, it matters who the leaders are. And when you have a company like Novo Nordisk, somebody pointed out to me today that they lost their patent in Canada and their CEO got canned. This is piss poor leadership. And that's why the stock's going, it's in the tank. So leadership matters. And so anyway, that's one of the criteria that I look for when I want to own a company longer term is leadership. Who's running the show? All right, I've got to move on because there's a group here that I like that, this one appeared on our relative strength list, and the relative strength list shifted a lot this week because of the rotation. The start of the third quarter happened last week, a lot of changes, and now we're seeing these other companies move in while we see, other companies like AEVA and, a bunch of these, got shipped out because they're below the 10. So, got to pay attention to this type of movement because this might be the start of a big move here. Let's take a look at shift for payments, and it's just consolidating within a base, just got above its moving average. As you can see, that's a stage one. I like four. I didn't put it on my Reddit list, but I like it a lot. I think I put on TOST, maybe not. But this is another one within the same group that I like. And this one, trading close to the moving averages until today. It popped pretty nice today. What, 2.5%? Still another one that I'm going to put on the Reddit list here. I mentioned that one in MicroStrategy. This group is they're showing signs. It's a sign. Another one that was in our relative strength is a firm. I'm not sure if it still is or not. It's kind of stalled a little bit here. It was on this big, run, 30 to 69. There's your two bagger. But yeah, that one looks good as well. Oh, what else do we have in this group? Oh, you got to go to Robinhood, a fintech name, of course, showing strength here, surfing the five, doing nothing wrong. Just hit 100 that one day and then pull back, rejected like Matombo. And you got to expect that. It's had a hell of a run from 29 to 100, so that, like I said, that's the kind of move that can make your year. And you don't need a lot of them. You don't need a lot of them. A couple of them, in the back half of 2025, I will take a couple of them and then, just light fireworks on New Year's and say Happy New Year. And I had a good year. You don't need a lot of them. Just be patient, wait for your pitch. I can't emphasize that enough. FUTU, because people want to trade in and out and they see the next hot thing, the shiny thing. It's like a dog with a squirrel. Squirrel, mm, you get distracted and you make mistakes. This is FUTU. It's a China fintech, but had this base on base pattern. Obviously, nice move this week, 17%. I have no idea what's moving the stock other than there's more buyers and sellers, but you can see the big volume coming in this week. Once again, trading tight within the base, near a moving average, and then it popped with volume. Okay, that's enough for that group. A couple of I did mention Palantir earlier, and I just wanted to point this out. This one's doing what it does, right? It had a little bit of a sell-off, a little bit of a glitch. People freak out, and then buyers come in, and it's just surfing the five here, closed above 143 today. I think the high was 148. Yeah, so just a tick below, yeah, 3.4% below that all-time high there, 148.22. That one looks fine. The other one I wanted to mention is CoreWeave. I mentioned I sold it yesterday. I am not liking the action on CoreWeave. I know a lot of people do, but this thing should bounce, right? When it pulls back to its 21 here, it had a little bit of bounce that one day, 8%. That's kind of what you want to see in the last couple of days of pullback today, just like an inside day at the 21. I should be salivating over that, but I want to see a bounce. And I'm talking a bounce above the 187. I'm not talking about this little, Mickey Mouse stuff. And I think at Wall Street doesn't believe the story, or they don't like the story, or they don't want to buy the story because they bought cores for 9 billion in stock, and this company is now below 4 billion. So that's telling you that Wall Street doesn't believe, to my way of thinking, it's telling me that Wall Street doesn't believe CoreWeave stock is going to be worth much because Cores was bought with stock. I could be wrong, and Wall Street could be wrong, but I don't want to argue with Mr. Wall Street. Nuh-uh, that's not my style. Cores down on an acquisition. That is really, really bizarre. You don't see that very often. CoreWeave, 3 days this week, it's down 7 something percent. 18% off the high. Technically, I would say this looks really good. Nice wedge, pennant pattern, right? High tide flag at the 21 should bounce, had an inside day. It's all there, right? But it's not. It's not bouncing. So until it does, like you're from Missouri, you got to say you got to show me, right? And this thing is not showing us. All right. I got to move on to the crypto names. I mentioned MicroStrategy earlier. Should have put this on last night. I'm going to put it on tomorrow. It's down a little bit after hours. I don't care about that. What I do care about that it's consolidating within a base. And now, yeah, it's moved a little bit, but it's still, below that 430. And I just like this thing above the 400 level. And yeah, that thing looks pretty darn good to me. But a couple other ones that I like probably a little better is IREN. It's showing this every day. It's got those David Ryan ants and yeah, moving higher with volume. It's only been down one day in the last, I don't know, it was up 11 days in a row. So I guess 13 days, 12 out of 13 days. And the one day that was down was yesterday, it was down 6 cents. So yeah, this one just wants higher. It should be higher. It's got three times the capacity of cores. Cores was bought out for 9 billion. Does that mean it's worth 27 billion? I don't know. That's not my decision. It's a 3 billion market cap now, though. I bought some just to kind of put away for, see what happens, right? It doesn't hurt here at 17. If it goes to 34, I'm a happy camper. If it goes back to 10, oh well, I sell it. I'll sell it before that. But another one that I like is CIFR, Cipher Mining. And this one's, showing to me it's doing exactly what it should do. Pull back to its 5 EMA, found support, now bounced Tuesday and Wednesday. I like it, here. I like it above 645. I like it above 777. I like it above $8. And I think it's going to get there. It's just going to need some time. You can see it consolidating within a base here. Yeah, there's your 777. Yeah. So, yeah. That's your oh, I gotta go to Coin, the new addition to the S&P. It's just been on a roll. Somebody asked me about it today. Should I buy it here? Sure. You can buy anything at any time. Just make sure you have your stop loss. Don't take more than a 5% loss and maybe it'll bounce and rip for you. To me, I mean, it's a little extended here, but yeah, I mean, Coinbase is, probably going higher, and you got to look at multiple time frames here for a stock that's Coinbase looks fine. All right, I'm going to move on from the oh no, I put Mara on the ready list. I got to show you this one. Why did you do that, Marty? Well, it's trading tight within the base, traded above the 200, traded above the 1724. Gosh, I didn't even notice it's up 5% today. I didn't buy it. That's probably the one I should have bought, but oh well. Maybe I'll buy it tomorrow. If you bought that one, I believe that one was on my Reddit list. Pretty sure it was. I just got chicken scratches here. So many companies. So pretty sure that was on the Reddit list. And that one to me is still actionable. And it will be for a while. That's just, that's a stage one base. If you're looking at a weekly, yeah, this is just a stage one base. This is a $30 stock. I'm not saying buy it at 30, but 20 right here. I still think this is actionable now that it's above the 200. That black line there on the weekly is the 40-week line, which is kind of the 200. Not exactly, but kind of. All right. Got to get to the defense names real quickly. BA broke out above that 218.80 was, the go time. That was your trigger on BA. Close at 226. Nice move for BA. HWM, this is another one that was on our relative strength list that fell off. Why? Because it's below its 10, but still doing nothing wrong. Just pulling back to the 21, finding support, pulling back to the 21, finding support, pulling back to the 21, finding support constantly. And that's kind of what you want to see in your stock, just slowly, steady eddy, grinding higher, finding support at moving averages. It looks fine. And the last one in the defense is Carbon, if I could get the ticker symbol in there correctly. This one broke out of a base, pulled back to the 50 for its first time yesterday, and then bounced nearly 6% today. So that looks pretty good. Carmen Holdings out of Huntington Beach, just a recent IPO, 2025 IPO. Looks pretty darn good. So that IPO has been very healthy. I'm going to have to do a video on IPOs. Okay, the last group that I want to get to, and I mentioned earlier about the relative strength and how much it's changing. We have 24, 25, 26 stocks there every morning. And for a couple of weeks there, it's kind of the same names. But this week we have a new month and a new quarter, and it's changing. You have to recognize the changes here. This is tapestry. You might not like handbags. You might not like Coach, Kate Spade. I don't care. This one is showing relative strength. It's making new highs. There's something going on here. Wall Street likes it. They're buying it. There's your cup with handle pattern and just breaking out. This is up. I don't know how many weeks in a row, but yeah, you gotta like that action, even if you don't like um, Kate Spade or Coach bags. Yeah, this one went from 58 to 95. Nice move. They were gonna buy Michael Kors or Capri, and then Dr. No, of course, that the FTC said no, you're not gonna buy. That we're not gonna let that deal go through. Kind of like Kroger's and Albertsons. Dr. No, she lives up to her reputation, and she's not there anymore. But Coach said they're no longer, going to make overtures towards Capri, and the stock is performing beautifully. Ralph Lauren, another one. He'll give you his shirt off your back, or he'll make you buy his shirts for your back. Anyway, cup with handle pattern. This is trading above the five. I mean, it's 2.2% above the five. It's a $290 stock with, nearly a million in volume. So, yeah, that one qualifies, and I'm just trying to point these out here. Another retail name, Boot Barn, shoe stock. And I think the reason why, as opposed to Nike and Crocs and Deckers, they all make their stuff overseas. Boot Barn makes their stuff, I believe, in Texas, right? They kill their rattlesnakes in Texas and make their snakeskin boots there. And this one had this, obvious V-shaped pattern, and now, it's making new highs. So it's on our relative strength. That's just pointing this out here. The last one is Cake Factory. A lot of the retail restaurant stocks have had a hard time, but Cheesecake Factory is on our list as well. So there's four new ones, and we've had way more than that. I'm not going to go through all of them. I just wanted to point out, look at that list every morning and notice the changes, right? Not the ones that are coming off, but just notice the new ones coming on and why they're on there and what are they doing. All right, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. You never give up. In honor of the great Steve Jobs. I know this is a long video, but I'm going to make one important point, and I've been trying to make it throughout this video. But in honor of Steve Jobs, we stay hungry, we stay foolish, we stay humble. And we have one more thing, and that is I'm just talking about one trade. All you need is one trade, folks. You don't need every day to be posting your P&L and bragging about your wins. I would definitely discourage. I don't do that, and I would discourage doing that. I think it's bad karma. You bragging about your trades. You should expect to have winning trades. You should expect to do well in the market. Um, act like you've been there before. This is Dave. It went from 65 to, I don't know, it was just a high the other day, 280. So what I'm saying is that all you need is one move like this. Let's just say you got it at 125 and you sold it at 250, a two bagger. That type of name is going to make your year. Holding just one of those is a swing trade. Just pull back to the 21 one time. This is a, beautiful swing trade. SEZL, I mentioned this yesterday, went from 25 up to what, 180, 186. So, and of course you're not going to buy it at the bottom. Let's just say you bought the breakout. Let's just say you bought the breakout here at 59.76, call it 60, when it broke out on earnings right here, and it just traded beautifully that one day. It pulled back to the 21, stayed above the 21. If it comes back down to the 21, it's probably a buy again. But my point is that if you got it at say 60 and it ran to 180, that's a three bagger. That will make your year. You don't need to be trading every day or winning every day. Don't put that pressure on yourself. One or two trades, three trades, if you're lucky, four or five, hopefully. In a market like this, you could definitely do four or five, big, two baggers in the back half of 2025. But just be patient. Wait for your pitch. Pick your spot. Don't be too hasty, and definitely don't, listen to people on Twitter who are, saying they're making 100% every day, because, they're not talking about their losers. They put out 10 stocks and they have one winner and they talk about that one, but the other nine are losers. And that's part of trading. You have losers. And but I know that entices people, and it's really a bad practice actually, because that's not reality. Reality is you're going to have a lot of losers. Heck, I probably have more losers than winners. But when I get a winner, it's a big winner. When I have a loser, it's a small loser. And that's the key to being successful in the market. I can't stress that enough. AEVA, this one, I don't know what it went from 2 to 40 or something, pull back to the 21, but that's the type of stock that, is it going to do that in the back half of 2025? Probably not. I'd be really surprised if it did, but that's the type of trade that, will make your back half of your year. The ASTS, we did have that one on our ready list, and, it was a big winner. And it went up to, I don't know, 29 to 54 or whatever. Nice move. You don't need a lot of them. Rubric, I mentioned this one earlier. It is a two bagger. Now it's pulled back. I believe this one can do this again in the back half of 2025. Be a two bagger. You can go to 180. Yeah, maybe not 180, but I don't know, maybe a 50% move. What is that from 90? Maybe 130, something like that. Let it form a base here. It made that high at 103. Now it's forming a base. It's been about 5 or 6 weeks here. Yeah, it's just forming a base. You can see this easily on the weekly. I know a lot of people yeah, they're talking about the high tide flag here, and it is. It's a high tide flag, but you really want to do the flag from where the breakout is, and it's flagging here, kind of nice. But I would say more of a just a rounded base. This looks to me like it's just rounding a base, pulling back to the 50. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's just going to need more time. Yeah, and a couple more earnings reports, and I think it's going to deliver the goods. But my point is, just get one or two of these. You don't have to own every winner that everybody's talking about every damn day. This is a Avis. Who would have thought Avis would have gone from 54 to whatever it went to 200? TSSI is another one that was on our relative strength list for a long time. It's pulled back now. But once again, 5 to 25 or 35, whatever the heck it was. TTMI, another one of these winners. And I think you get the point by now. You don't need a lot of them, okay? And that's why I want you to look for the RS list as well, because they start, like this above their moving averages, and they make these big moves. And so you can get them, William O'Neill, who used to always say, you buy high and you sell higher. He was not one of these guys who would be buying the home stocks right now because they're down there for a reason. People have been selling them, but you get something like this, 17 to 48, that will make your year. Hims had a big move as well, 23 to 67. You get my point. LEU, I think I showed you this one earlier, and OCUL has been a big winner this year, and TMDX. Okay. So I think you get the idea. Let your winners ride. You don't need a lot of them. You don't have to catch every wave, right? You're not going to ride every wave. You're not going to ride every streetcar. Just pick the ones you want to ride. There's plenty of them. I have a lot of ideas in the morning at mcstockcharts.com. And, some of those, when they break out, I don't, keep them on the ready list because they get extended. But, they make big moves after, if you buy them properly, like CLS, I think I just had that on last week. That thing could definitely run to 200, then to 300. And, if you got it at 144, whatever it was, 149, 150, you're going to be a happy camper. Anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Thank you for watching. Sorry for the long video. At mcstockcharts.com, we never give up.